How you guys doing? Come on. How you guys doing? Woo, I got good news and bad news. The bad news is I'm in need of a beer. But the good news is I've been told I got to give this presentation first. So here we go. All right. This session is called Supercharge Your Lightning Components with Design Parameters. My name is Greg Ruiz. I am the Director of Product Management for Lightning Components. So this is a topic I feel very, very passionately about. Now, how many of you have seen more than one presentation at Dreamforce already? Okay, great. Then you can tell me, what's my next slide? Were you right? Yes, the forward-looking statement. Of course, as a product manager, I very often spew things about the future and say, oh, but in the future we'll be doing this, that, or the other thing. Please, of course, only make purchasing decisions based upon things that we have announced as generally available. All right. So, what's the big thing about Lightning? Big thing about Lightning is customization, right? Have you ever tried to do this in Classic? Your boss comes in and says, hey, wouldn't it be neat if we had like the details of the record up here on the right-hand side? I don't know, something like that. How easy is that to do in Classic? It's like, has anybody ever tried it? Did you enjoy that week of your life? Because that is painful, but that's what Lightning does for us. It makes things easy. You see, because this is a fundamental shift. We are shifting away from Classic's old server-side, server-driven model, where everything that we did is on the server. The page is compiled on the server, sent back down to us. Any interaction with the page results in another server call. So I've got to have it go up to the server, do something, bring some results back. The change, though, with Lightning is that everything is happening on the client side. In other words, the page coming down from the server is actually very few lines. That's the actual page on the right-hand side in Chrome Inspector. There's only 45 lines of code. Now, if you've ever done front-end development, you know that 45 lines of code, that's not right. You can't do that page in 45 lines of code. That's because that's the base. That's what's sent down to us, and then the framework picks up and starts getting all the pieces, all the puzzle pieces that we need. They're coming down separately from the server, and they are going to be married together by the framework on the client. Now, this gives us some added benefits because it means that now we're on the client. We can actually interact with the page without ever talking to the server. Okay? These are some of the great things that Lightning gives us. But we're here to talk about something else. So let me start with this. What do you see here? This is the interactive portion of the demonstration. I ask a question, you answer. What do you see here? If you're not saying components, 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 you're seeing it wrong. You see, because this is what Lightning is all about. When I say we are assembling the page on the client, we are assembling all of the page out of all of the components that make up that page. Now, some of those components are standard components that we give you out of the box, but others are components that you and I, as developers, build. Now, how many of you are developers? Okay, if you're raising your hand right now, you've just told me something about yourself. You don't like to talk to people, especially not your admin who comes and says, hey, by the way, that component that I just put on the page, I need you to change the title on it. Right? Oh, really? Wouldn't you like to say, do it yourself? That's what I'm about to teach you how to do. You see, because everything in Lightning is a component, it means that all of these things share some basic parameters across the board. So everything is a component, but what does that mean? Well, what that means is that everything is built as a component on your page out of up to 8 files. So each component can contain up to 8 files. The first file is the component file. Now, this is your markup. So this is your HTML, right? The second file is your controller file. This is actually the JavaScript that is going to make your component do things, right? So that's awesome. We have HTML and we have JavaScript. We have another file called a helper. That's also a JavaScript file. But then we come to the third pillar of the web. The web is built out of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, right? So we have a CSS file. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you. When I started building Lightning components 3 years ago, I was writing a lot of CSS myself. These days, I rarely write any at all because the Salesforce Lightning design system writes that CSS for me. I don't have to do as much because it's already been written for me. Then the next file is documentation. What's that? No, seriously, I'm a developer. What's documentation? It's the thing you don't read and definitely don't write, right? But you should now write documentation. Why? Or at least find someone who'll write it for you. Why? Because if you were here in the previous presentation in the component library, your own components that you build will actually show up in the component library. And there is a tab for documentation. So if you didn't write it, it's just going to throw an error, and that tells everybody that Greg is lazy or couldn't find somebody to write the documentation for him. All right. But moving on down, the renderer, don't worry about it. We're deprecating it. It's gone. I've only used it once in 3 years. I copied and pasted the code. I didn't even understand what it did. But the next file, the design file. The design file for me is the singular most important file in the entire bundle because this is the one. This is the one that empowers my admins. It empowers my app builder users. And then following that on, SVG. That is, if the design file is the most important, the SVG is the least important because that's the little icon in App Builder sitting next to your component. Okay? So we'll take a look at all of those here in a moment. But it is the design file that we are going to concentrate on. Now, if you've ever used App Builder, even with our standard components, you've dragged a standard component onto the page, over in the right-hand column, there were some things that were exposed for you. You could manipulate those things. Those are those very same design parameters. Now, in our standard components, we built all of the design parameters for you. But you, as developers, have the ability to build them into your own components. So, are you tired of looking at slides? No? I am. Let's get into a demo. All right. So, we're going to need to build a component. Let's do that now. We're going to start off by going over into our developer console. I'm going to start with File, New, Lightning Component. And I'm going to call this, let's call this Last Demo. And I'm going to say that this is going to be put onto a Lightning record page. And I will submit. All right, I'm off and running. I have a component. Arguably a very dumb component because it doesn't do anything yet. So I want a little bit of an interface for this. So where am I going to get my interface? Well, I'm going to go get my interface from that very same component library that you saw in the previous demonstration. So in my page, I want my component to fit in. And you'll notice that all of these things seem to have like rounded corners, white background, an icon, a title. These are actually known as a card. Okay? So we actually have built for you a base component. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to say card. I'm going to find card. I'm going to go straight to it. So here I have my basic card. Here I have my narrow card, my custom card. And as you can see, as I'm doing things are changing down here below. So I'm going to go back and grab my basic card. And I'm just going to grab the markup for the card in between my Aura component tags. I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to paste that in. And we'll go ahead and save this. Now, in order to see this, of course, I'm going to go put it on a page. So we'll go back over here. We'll go into App Builder by going to Edit Page. And inside of App Builder, I'm going to go down to my custom components where I have my last demo component. I'm just going to drag this out. We're going to drop it right there. We're going to save this, and we'll head back over to our page. OK, so we've got our component. It's on the page, and it currently says hello. Now, I don't want it to say hello. I need it to say what the information is in that card. So how do I do that? Well, I could obviously go over here and just change the title of the card from one thing to another, but that would be sort of dumb because now every time I need to make a change, I've actually got to go in and make the change, right? So let's make this a little bit more dynamic. We're going to do that by first adding in a new line of code. And in this new line of code, let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see it a little bit better. I'm going to say Aura attribute name equals, and I'm just going to call it title. And I'm going to tell it what type this is. This is going to be text, so this is a string. And there you go. Now, I want to have whatever gets assigned to this title become this thing here. So I'm going to go ahead and make this then into a variable. I'm going to say this is an expression. Go back and find my variable named title. And whatever that value is, I want that one to become what we're doing, right? The problem is, right now, I don't have a default. So let's go ahead and give it a default. So I'll say default equals my card. All right, so we've saved that. Let's go see if everything's okay. We're going to refresh this really quickly. And there we go. We can see the title for my card. Now, my admins are still coming to me going, dude, I don't want it to say my card, right? So now we want to expose that design parameter. So how do we do that? Well, we do that by going to that important file, the design file. So I'm going to click on the design file. We're going to go over to that. Now, in the design file, this is where we are going to expose the parameters. So I'm going to start by saying I need a new design attribute. That design attribute is going to have a name. Now, here's where it gets fun. This name must match an attribute in the actual component file. Okay? How many attributes do we have in the component file right now? 1. What do we call it? Title. Right? So we're going to say this is going to be called title. All right. Now, I'm going to give it a label as well, because in App Builder, I want you to know what you're supposed to fill out there. So I'm going to say this is called card title. And we're done. All right, let's save this. Let's go back over here. Now let's head actually back into App Builder, because inside of App Builder, something magical has changed now. When we go back into App Builder and I click on my card, now look what I have over here on the right-hand side. I now have my design attribute, my card title, and a field for me to fill it out. This is going to say last demo of the day. And as soon as I click off of it, you see what has happened? My component's name or title has changed. And there was much rejoicing. No, I don't want pity applause. I want spontaneous, oh my God, that was amazing applause. So let me see if I can get it to you here. All right, let's head back over into our component. You see, because there's a lot more that I'm going to need to do with this card. So one of the things that I'm going to do, for example, is I don't need the footer in there, so I'm just going to take that out. But I know that cards, back over here, if we were looking at all those other cards, they all have an icon. I would actually like mine to have an icon too. So let's go back into our developer console. And in our developer console, I'm going to say icon, if I can spell, icon name equals. And then I'm going to say I need another attribute. So I'm going to make another attribute. And that variable is going to be called icon, shockingly enough. And then that means I now need another attribute here. So we'll take that one, we'll paste it in, make this all nice and pretty for you. I'll say icon. That is also going to be a string, but it is not going to have a default. Okay, so if I don't specify one, I don't want that attribute. So let's go back over into our design file, though. That means that we now have to take a new design attribute, add that in. We'll call it icon. And this is the card icon. And now, in order to help you with the instructions, I'm actually going to give it a description. I'm going to say what you're supposed to do here. And I'm going to say use category, colon, icon, like in SLDS. All right, so now I have a description that tells the person what is expected of them in that field. So I'll go ahead and save this. And now I'm going to head back over into my component. And now I need to specify this icon. But first of all, how do I know? What is an icon? What are we talking about with that name and icon thing or category? Well, I'm going to go to the Lightning Design System, where I'm going to go to my icons, because I have every icon available in Salesforce available to me as well. So let's say, for example, I wanted something out of my standard category, so my standard icons. I could go back over here. Actually, not even over here, because we've actually done all the work that we need to. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to refresh the page so that now my component, as I click off of it and back on, it's going to update. We see that there is a card icon there as well. So I can say, let's go do a standard icon. And let's say like standard, I know there's one called user. So there you go. I have a standard user icon. Or no, I don't like that one. Let's go with an announcement. And there you go. Now I have that announcement icon. All right, oh, all right, okay, it's starting to come. All right, that's cool. All right, but I got more. You see, because only in certain circumstances do I want that new button that's right there in the upper right-hand corner. I don't want that all the time. So I want to give my admin the ability to turn that on or turn that off. So let's head back over into our developer console one more time. Let's think if we could have an Aura attribute. And in that Aura attribute, let's actually say this is show button. And it's going to be a type of string as well. And I'm going to give it a default of true. All right? But now I need to go back over into, oh, wait a second, I'm going to do this slightly different. I'm just going to take this, I'm going to cut it out for a moment. I'm going to save. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to do it over here just so that you can see something, because if I didn't show this to you, it's going to happen to you, and you're going to be pissed off, right? You're going to say, it didn't happen to Greg when I saw it at Dreamforce, so let me do it for you. Let me make a mistake. We're going to take this design attribute. We're going to say design attribute name equals show button, label equals show button. But now I need true or false. I need the user to pick true or false. Now I don't want them to have to type in true. They may misspell it or something. So I'm actually going to give them a pick list. I'm going to say, instead of just a field, I'm going to give you a data source, and that is going to be equal to true or false. A data source is nothing more than a comma-separated list of things. All right, I would normally put in description and all of that as well, but I'm going to leave it right there. Now watch this. Save, boink, error. You see, because it says, hey, dude, Greg already told you in order to make a design attribute, you have to have a corresponding attribute in the component. Since I don't have one with the same name, I just got an error. Okay, so let me go and put that back over here. We'll put it back in, boink, so there it is. Now I'll save, and now that means I can go back over here and save as well. All right, so now back in my component, the last thing I want to do is I'm going to go inside of this thing, and I'm going to say Aura if is true equals, and what I want is I want to know if the value of show button is equal to true. And if that is true, that's when we're going to show our new button. Otherwise, we're going to hide it. So I'm just going to pop that in right here. There we go. Okay, so now if all has gone well, I can go back over here one more time. We're going to refresh our page. Click off of this and click back on. And you can now see my new field is there. You can see the new button is in fact there, but if I switch it to false, the new button is now gone. Okay? Woo! All right. So what we're doing here is we are going crazy with attributes. Anything that we put into our component, we can expose to our admins in App Builder to do whatever they want. Let me show you another one. So I actually have, and let me go back out onto the page here for a moment and show you that out here on my page, I have two components, actually, similar properties by price and similar properties by bedrooms. I just lied to you. You know that, right? I said I have two components. No, that's one component. You see, but what I did was over in my design parameters, now we'll go back over here, in my design parameters, I simply said, what is it that I want to have this component search for? Do I want to have it search by price, or do I want to have it searched by bedrooms? And you just saw it change right there, live in front of your eyes. Because in my Apex code, I'm simply receiving those parameters, those search criteria, and saying, hey, if it's by this, do this. If it's not, do that, right? This is really, really cool. Those parameters, again, they can be either a text field or a pop-up. Now, I told you that it was a pop-up is a comma-separated list, right? I lied to you there, too. because you don't even have to do that. This list right here is actually a dynamically generated pick list. What? Well, you see, and I'll just show you the finished code over here. In my, I've got an Apex class that's going out and doing a lookup to find all this particular pick list, get all of the values for the pick list, and then I'm going to feed it back into my dynamic pick list rows, which is what I'm using in my design file. I'll just uncomment it here again. So instead of a data source that is a comma-separated list, I am simply saying use this Apex class to generate the dynamic list for me. So you can have static list, you can have text, or you can have dynamically generated pick list for your users to pick from. Now, I'm really out of time, but you want to see one more cool one? All right, we're going to go absolutely bonkers nuts right now, because my admins, they need forms all the time. And they're always coming to me saying, I need a form to add a contact. I need a form to update an opportunity. I need a form to do this, that, and the other thing. So I tell them now, do it yourself. You ready? All right, here's our component. Last one of the day, then I'll show you the code. I built this little component. It's called Build a Form. That's the name of the component. All right, let's drag it out here, see what it does. Boom. Right now, it's showing me a record ID. That's stupid. I don't want it to show me a record ID. I want it to show me, actually, let's have fun. I want it to show me all of the info for this particular property. So I'm just going to start filling some stuff out. Like, this is my property object. What title do I want to give my card? This is the property. Do I want an icon? Yeah, we'll use we'll use a custom icon. 95, I think, is a good one. And then I want it in, let's go in 2 columns. It'll be in view mode to start. What I really need is the name of the property. I need the status of the property. I need the, let's go with price of the property. That might be good. Let's just go with that for now. And boom, as we, oh, sorry. It helps if these are custom fields. So there we go, status __ C. There we go. Whoops, hello, __ C. And there we go. And now I've just built a form with 3 fields on it. Oh, and by the way, do you want to see this thing work? I'll save it. We'll head back out over here onto the page. And now my user wants to edit this. Okay, we'll make this be Rattle Street. Actually spelling it out. We'll save that. Whoops, and that was me. Sorry. But there you go. I've got my form, editing my form. My users can now go and build pages. They don't even have to talk to me, and that makes me happy. Because I'm going to be across the street in the pub drinking beer. All right, with that, thank you very, very much for hanging out with me. If you do have questions, I'll be happy just to let me pack my bags up, and I'll meet you right there at the back and take any questions that you might have. All right? Thank you very, very much.